Well, we tend to sometimes think of isolation as the frail elder alone in the corner room or something like this. But isolation affects anybody who's gone through a major transition in their lives. Take somebody, for example, who's lost their job and who hasn't found a job for a period of time. Many times people tend to get despondent about that, feel isolated, like there's no support out there. And we know the stresses that they feel that affect their health, therefore their longevity, that affect their relationships, that affect their reason or wanting to get up in the morning. All of that are negative indicators. In fact, the negative indicators are so strong that, for example, the isolation people feel with job loss over a period of time has stronger long-term impacts on people than losing a spouse to death, for example. That's how strong it is. So when you look at its effects, I've been part of something called the Purpose Project at the Center for Spirituality and Healing at the University of Minnesota for the last 5 years. And we've been looking at how isolation and other factors relate to longevity, healing, jobs, relationships, and all of that. And it's a huge factor across the board. Particularly interesting to me is its impact on healing, because this Center for this Purpose Project, the research it's doing is in the medical school at the University of Minnesota. Why would the medical school be interested in this kind of thing? Well, they find that people who come back from an illness, like cancer survivors, who are coming back in isolation, don't heal as fast. Their lives are greatly affected by the social milieu and the networks and the isolation that they feel. Each person is an experiment of one. So you can look at trend lines or factors. But for example, when we do work with people on life transitions and work transitions, for example, our research shows that in the last year, if we interview 1,000 people, 59% of those people have had a negative triggering event in the past year where they wanted or looked for support, looked for guidance in certain ways. 41% of those people wonder, where do I turn to? Where do I get guidance? Where do I get support? I was doing a program called Healing on Purpose, and it was for cancer survivors. There were 150 people in the room. And this woman, her cell phone went off 3 or 4 times during the time, and we'd asked them to turn it off during the program. She got up 3 or 4 different times and walked out. At the end of the program, she came up to me and she said, I just want to apologize. She waited for everybody. I was signing books, and she waited for everybody else to leave. And I looked up, and this woman was crying. And I went, well, what's that all about? And she said, I just want to apologize to you for getting up and going out. And I said, yeah, well, why did you do that? And she said, I am #1 on the heart transplant recipient list. Every phone call that comes in, I need to respond to. It could be my heart, which would save my life. And I went, wow, that is a major trigger. What are you doing here? Why did you come here? And she said, I feel so alone. My friends know that I'm going through this, but they say, oh, you'll be okay, and all of this. And she said, what you did here with Healing on Purpose was to set up little support groups, little sounding boards for us to talk to each other. And I felt so embraced that these people really got me. And I think at the heart of isolation is we want somebody else in our lives to get us, to get what we're about. Every human being wants somebody in their life who's a committed listener, who gets them. And even if they're not going through a major transition, but when you're in a transition zone, in that phase I call limbo, there's that period between something ending, something else beginning, where there's a change in your life. There's a big gap there we call limbo, or we call the neutral zone, kind of between 2 trapezes, letting go of one and embracing the other. A lot of people in our society, like this woman, for example, who are feeling between trapezes and want some support, want some to hear and get them. Not fix them, but get them.